Hello. I have a disagreement with you guys. I believe that the Electoral College is unjust and should be abolished. And
Okay,
Mr. Ramaswamy, I believe, since you ran for president, I would like to hear from you first.
Sure. So, I think this is a common. I know this is near and dear to Charlie's heart. Oh, okay. Let's start with that. Well, I think that is a great question to ask, Charlie. I like that. Let's start with that so I make sure I'm responding to the question. What is the definition of justice?
Okay, so we talk a lot about like DEI programs and that sort of thing, and people being, unjustly put into these like positions. I believe that the Electoral College is DEI for the Republican Party, where Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, but lost the presidency because of the Electoral College, because it empowers rural states more by giving them the electoral votes.
Do you believe that the Senate is unjust?
I believe the Senate needs to exist.
Okay, so because that's the whole principle, is that we don't just live in a direct democracy, we live in a constitutional republic, and that means a few things. First is it means that we are really a union of states. We're not just a random assemblage of geographic landmasses called states that we call a union. That means something where part of it is direct representative democracy, but part of it is also making sure that states actually have a relative say in the process. That's how you get the Senate versus the House to balance it out. Same thing with respect to the history of the Electoral College. This is about making sure that we're being thoughtful about the step of who's actually the U.S. president while channeling the democratic will through the manner enshrined in our Constitution. And here's the biggest difference between a republic and a democracy. This is relevant to a lot of young people. Is in a constitutional republic, it's not just about what you get. Right? In a democracy, you get a vote. You think about what does it mean to be a citizen, about what you get. In a constitutional republic, it's also about what you give. It's about your civic duty to your country. And I think that part of what our founding fathers envisioned is we had voters who actually knew something about their country. You know, every legal immigrant who comes to this country has to pass a civics test before they can vote. Well, frankly, the sad truth is most voters would fail that if they took it today. That would make our founding fathers roll over in their graves. And so I think that we got to get beyond this idea that we're some kind of direct democracy. We're actually a republic where people have responsibilities and states actually have some level of distributed say to make sure that two cities in New York and California don't govern who actually leads the entire United States of America.
And I will push back. Look at the current battleground states. The blackest state in the country is getting a lot of attention because of the Electoral College, Georgia. One of the most black states in the country, North Carolina, is getting a lot of attention.
Atlanta is one of the biggest metro areas in the country. It would get attention whether or not they had the 16 electoral college votes.
But
the Republican Party has a cushion. They have states like Wyoming that nobody lives in.
Let's be
it's
consistent.
Three
okay.
electoral votes.
First of all, 700,000 Americans live there, so let's not talk down to our fellow citizens.
Okay, but why does their vote, right? Why does their vote go farther than mine, who's from Texas?
Hold on a second. Rhode Island and Hawaii are small, and that helps Democrats, right?
Yeah, I think that's bad too.
Okay, got it. But it doesn't just help Republicans. What it does is it requires candidates, as Vivek aptly put it, to have a preference on states. We are not a national project first and foremost. We are a collection of sovereign states that come together as a national project. And the founders wanted a decentralized way of doing elections. And I think it's actually a really good thing that this state, which is incredibly diverse, very difficult to be able to win, will determine the entire election. I think Pennsylvania is a great picture of the country, and you guys get a lot of attention because of it. Now, you say in Texas, well, in Texas, it actually might become a battleground state one day. The thing about the Electoral College is that certain battleground states rise and certain fall. Ohio used to be a battleground state. Now Arizona's a battleground state. Georgia never used to be a battleground state. Now it is. Florida used to be. And so what the Electoral College does is it forces candidates to go into places outside of the coastal corridor and win over voters of the people that actually make the country work, such as Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Georgia, and Michigan.
It doesn't answer the question, though, why somebody's vote in somewhere like Wyoming, which has 3 votes for 70,000 people, versus Texas's 700,000 versus Texas's 38 for 30 million. That doesn't make any sense.
Well, that's actually proportional, though, because
No, it's not.
It is proportional because, okay, then would you get rid of Wyoming as statehood? To be consistent, should Wyoming exist as a state?
Absolutely.
Well, then,
But their vote should be the same as mine.
So I got a solution to this, and it's
Abolish
not
the Electoral College.
well, it's not the one that I made. It's the solution that our founding fathers made, which is that if we don't like that, the United States of America, we got a way to change it.
Yeah.
It's a constitutional amendment. So
you agree with me?
I don't agree with you because
No,
I wouldn't
of
vote
course
for it.
not.
But if your view is that this is anti-democratic,
I love my
there's
country.
a way to
I
change
agree.
it. Where if 3/4 of people in this country wanted to change it, that would change in an instant. And so there's a mechanism to go through it. So just like the gentleman earlier who was founding a movement, there could be a movement that says we want a constitutional amendment to
There is
abolish the
one.
Electoral College, but they haven't managed to convince enough people in this country that it's worth it. And the reason why is there was actually a justification for it. Turns out that most people, when they think about it, actually do land where Charlie and I do on a popular vote basis across the country. That wouldn't be a weighted vote, by the way. So you're talking about actually overturning it through the constitutional amendment, then Wyoming doesn't actually get more votes. You're talking about just 3/4 of the overall states and 3/4 of the vote in Congress, which is proportional representation. So there's a way to fix it that our founding fathers, these guys were geniuses. They had built that into the system.
I agree. I love my country.
And
I'm a
if-
patriot.
and if you convince your citizens, then maybe that will be true 50 years
but
from
we
now.
don't
But it's never
believe
happened.
that majoritarian ways of doing elections is the best way. We think
why
that,
not?
Well, because we're not an up or down majoritarian democracy. We're a decentralized country of states first, and I'll keep on saying that sovereign states matter. That's what makes us different than France and Germany and Belgium and the United Kingdom, is that we're a bottom-up form of government, not a top-down form of
Germany
government.
also has strong state governments.
Not as much, actually, during COVID. When edicts were done in Germany, it was straight from the centralized government. No, it's like they did not have provinces. Like Bavaria did not have a different COVID policy than, Berlin. They didn't have, in America, COVID was a great example of why we have decentralized states. States were able to make different decisions. California lost their mind.
I don't disagree with you on
No,
this.
no,
though.
of
I
course.
love our country.
No.
What I'm saying is, you haven't addressed why somebody in Wyoming should matter more on the
Well, but-
Electoral College basis than me in Texas. It makes no sense.
I reject the framing.
One person, one vote.
No, that's not it's never been that way, though. Not in presidential elections.
Oh, okay.
No, it's not. One person, one vote is majoritarian democracy.
Okay.
Instead, it's the states get appropriated.
But you haven't told me why that's better. You've told me that it is the way it is.
I'm attempting to. As I said, we're a bottom-up government, not a top-down government. It decentralizes power. It also requires leaders, as I've said, to hear the needs, wants, and concerns. We're not going to agree here, and that's fine. But
So I'll give you an image. Unfortunately, I can't show you the image like right now, but you can look it up. All right. Somebody made this image of what the electoral map could look like if the Electoral College was abolished. You would have two blue dots, one around New York and one around the west coast of California. The entire rest of the map of the United States of America.
I'm
in
from
between
Texas. I can assure
would be
you there
red.
would be several blue
No, no,
dots
but,
there.
But I'm saying that in theory you could have an election where it would just be those two blue blots and the rest of the entire map is red, and you would still have an outcome where you would have a blue president of the United States.
Yes.
And it could be in
Land
reverse
doesn't
too.
vote.
And so the answer is that would feel unjust for a lot of those other states that deserve to actually be respected as states in the union. We have the Senate and the House for the same reason that we have the Electoral College. We need to balance the way in which those sovereign states are still a part of the union. I know you may not find that persuasive. That's the reason. But if you convince other people across the country, you'd be able to overturn it in a constitutional amendment. It's just that hasn't happened in the first 240 years of our constitutional founding.
thank you very much.
I'd like to ask you, how do you feel about replacing the Electoral College with ranked choice voting?
I'm not a fan of ranked choice voting at all. Yeah. Do you want to explain what ranked choice voting is, or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, RFK, for example, he dropped out of the race. I thought he was a pretty good candidate. He had a lot of good policies, but under the two-party system that we have, he is suppressed, and I think the Electoral College has a lot of flaws. Territories, they can't vote. Conservatives in big blue cities, big blue states, are suppressed. They're ignored because of the winner-takes-all system, and the distortion of the votes. Like Wyoming is 4 times the voting power of California. I think there's a lot of flaws, and ranked choice voting would make our votes more specified.
Got it. So first, you were RFK fan. Are you voting for Trump now?
I don't want to say,
Okay.
but
I'll put you down as a probably. Yeah. Okay. Right. Put him down as a probably. Right. All right. But no, you're talking about two different things. The Electoral College is different than ranked choice. Ranked choice voting is a way of saying that basically the first loser ends up advancing as the candidate, right? So are you in favor of a popular vote for president, or?
I thought the ranked choice voting meant like you go to vote your favorite candidate's number one.
Correct. Yeah.
Your second. So like, I think that's good because people could like give their overall thoughts, and people would be
Right.
more like researched about their.
Yeah, I
candidates.
mean, where we've seen ranked choice voting employed is usually by liberals and Democrats in very, very red states, and they end up basically eliminating the Republican Party. That's a little bit more nuanced, but as far as the Electoral College goes, I love the fact that Wisconsin is now one of the most important states in this election, and that Wisconsin values and Wisconsin voters are going to have to be heard by both candidates, and that it's not just a race in Los Angeles and New York City. Now, understand, yes, Wyoming has a lot of power, but so does Rhode Island and Hawaii, which are two blue states that are not as big, right?
Yes.
So the beauty of the Electoral College is that it recognizes that America's system is different than Europe. It's different than most of the world. We are states first, and then we are a national project, and therefore the states need to have some form of representation in how we tabulate our votes. And the brilliance of the Electoral College is that we're going to try to turn it up, guys. I'll try to really enunciate, okay? The beauty of the Electoral College is that the swing states, think of how diverse these states are. Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. If it was a pure popular vote, which I know you're not advocating for, it would all be about Seattle, Chicago, San Francisco, LA, New York.
But the top like 10 cities is like around 10% of the total population. That would not be nearly enough to win the election. Even the top 50 cities wouldn't get you close enough to win the election.
Well, so yes and no. I mean, the population of the metroplex areas are more than half the American population. So you're right. Anyone from Chicago? I'm from Chicago. I'm sure we got a lot of Chicagoans here, right? So we all know the difference between Chicago and Chicagoland, right? So Chicagoland is nearly, I think, 7 or 8 million people, where Chicago's 3 million people. But I think you can agree, at least we can agree, the beauty of the Electoral College, and it does have some flaws. The beauty, though, is that it requires candidates to have to go to many different parts of the country and to earn support, not just go to the coastal cities. And the way it works in a lot of European elections, in the United Kingdom or in French elections, the United Kingdom not is a good example because they have a parliamentary system, but like France, they just run up the score in Paris and they say, forget it, to the rules. I think it's a good thing that Wisconsin farmers have a say in this election. It gives Wisconsin a seat at the table. So thank you, man. Appreciate it. Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you.